So welcome to the second episode of Paws for Thought with the Mental Capacity Cat. Today I'm really pleased to introduce Sophie Hurst, who is a barrister at King's Chambers. She was called to the bar in 2018 and commenced a pupillage with King's Chambers in the same year under the supervision of Simon Burrows, who's now His Honour Judge Burrows. Sophie was offered a tenancy at King's Chambers following her pupillage and specialises in the Court of Protection, including both health and welfare and property and affairs. She regularly talks at seminars and training sessions about all things Court of Protection and is also a member of the North West Regional Committee of COPPA. So Sophie, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on today, and thank you so much for agreeing to be on the show today. As you know, I'm going to ask you a few questions and I'm really looking forward to seeing the responses that you have. So if we just kick off first by asking, what inspired you to qualify as a barrister working within mental capacity work?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Very nice to be here. So what inspired me to qualify as a barrister within mental capacity? I mean, I think the sort of place to start really is what inspired me to qualify as a barrister, or when did that happen? Given I'm still quite early in my career, that might be the best place to start. So it wasn't like I, from a very young age, knew I wanted to be a barrister or knew what area of law I wanted to practice in. I don't think it was until sort of my final year at university, and I did a history degree, not a law degree, that I sort of committed to the idea of having a career at the bar. I think it all stemmed from, I used to really love performing arts and drama and, wanted to be an actress. And then I think someone I was about year 10 or 11 sort of said, oh, well, the courtroom's a bit like a stage. So why don't you have a think about that? And I think something sort of stuck in the back of my head. So I think, it all stemmed from that love of performing. And yeah, third year of university, decided, okay, barrister's what I want to do. So I did the law conversion course and then went on to the bar professional training course and then got my pupillage at King's. In terms of mental capacity work specifically, it wasn't even an area of law I was aware of, I don't think, until I did a mini pupillage at King's Chambers. Before that, all the experience, and I think this is the sort of way lots of mini pupils or lots of people shadowing sort of experience law, you often follow criminal barristers, or it's usually quite commercially based stuff. I know I did work in employment when I was doing my work experience. But went along to the mini pupillage open day at King's, and Simon Burrows did a talk on mental capacity and mental health. And I remember sitting there sort of thinking, gosh, this is obvious that these sort of, issues arise in everyday life. And, I've got grandparents and great grandparents who have, similar issues or at least something similar to what he was talking about. I've got family members who have learning disabilities as well. And I suddenly thought, I can't believe I didn't even know about this area of law or what the Court of Protection was. And obviously, Simon Burrows, now His Honour Judge Burrows, is a very good speaker. And I think that probably helped and got me really interested into what he was talking about. So, I went away from that thinking, that's a really interesting area of law. It stuck with me. And then I applied for pupillage the next year, actually. And luckily, King's Chambers were offering a public law pupillage, which meant I could do, mental capacity work with it. So it all kind of stemmed from there. I wouldn't say it was something I'd always kind of had a passion for, but once I became aware of it, it was really something in an area that resonated with me. So I just kind of ran with it from there.
Oh, that's awesome. And I mean, that's one of the reasons why I'm doing these video casts, because I think it's really important, because there is that lack of awareness, I think, sometimes when it comes to the Mental Capacity Act and working within this area. Because similarly for me, I had no idea really about mental capacity work until I did my training contract. I just thought medical negligence, brain injury type work would be a good place to go. And then I found out about mental capacity and I was like, oh wow, this makes so much sense. So it's interesting how you've had a similar journey, but obviously from the barrister route in that sense. No, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us. I'm hoping that will inspire some junior lawyers out there as well, to look into the area. I suppose with that in mind, the next question I have for you is, since practicing in this area, what has been your most memorable Court of Protection moment?
Well, that's really hard. Lots of memorable moments come to mind. I think probably the biggest one was during my pupillage, before I'd started on my feet, so in my first six, I was asked to assist in the case of Re-A and Re-B, which everyone now knows, the social media case.
Yeah.
And I was asked to prepare a report on the different social media platforms for Mr. Justice Cobb to consider before he made his decision about the relevant information. And I think I was probably asked as perhaps the youngest member of Chambers, and, you know, sort of thought, oh, you know, Sophie, you'll probably know all the answers to this straight away. Well, anyone who knows me will know I'm the biggest sort of technophobe. I don't have no social media platforms. And I sort of started thinking, oh yeah, of course I'll do it. And, you know, suddenly thinking, I don't even have Twitter. You know, I was sort of like, well, I just don't know what to do here. So it's what probably they thought would take me, you know, very little time, spent hours researching, and learned quite a lot myself actually about privacy settings, and sort of was texting my mum like, oh my goodness, did you know that you need to turn this off and this off? Anyway, so I think that, you know, to be part of a case that has, you know, turned out to be that important at such an early stage in my career was an absolutely fantastic opportunity. And I remember going along to court. It was one of the early hearings after I prepared the report, and I think it was the first time I'd ever really been in a courtroom and ever spoken in a courtroom, because Mr. Justice Cobb sat at the front and said, oh, I've had this very, you know, helpful report, and I believe it was prepared by a pupil at King's Chambers, Miss Hurst. Is Miss Hurst here? And I hadn't, you know, I'd not stood up in court yet. I wasn't on my feet. I'd never, and I sort of froze and thought, do I put my hand up? Do I stand up? Do I not? I didn't know what to do. I mean, Sam Kareem QC looked around and sort of gave me this reassuring smile. So I just sort of stood up and went, you know, yes, my lord, that was me, and quickly sat down. So it was quite the debut into court, you know, never even spoken in court before. So that was a, you know, really memorable moment, I think, for me. But I mean, there's loads. I think another one that really sticks in my mind was quite a straightforward Section 21A case. P was an older gentleman, dementia, care home, wanted to move care homes, you know, a situation we often see. Proceedings, they'd run quite smoothly. You know, we'd found a new care home for him. He was going to move, and we were due to go back to court for sort of like a review hearing to sort of say, you know, how's it getting on? You know, confirm that all the standard authorization requirements were met, and end of. And I got to court for the review hearing, and he had two daughters there. They weren't parties, I don't think, but you know, they were involved and wanted to be involved. And they came up to me and sort of said, oh, you know, oh, look at this picture of P on the train. And there was a picture of him that they'd taken on the train down to London where his new care home was. And he was sat with a hot chocolate and a big thumbs up, you know, really pleased to be moving to his new care home. And it just sort of really hit home that actually, you know, I think it just rushed to call that morning. I was probably thinking about my next case that I was doing in the afternoon, because I knew this would be, you know, quite a quick review thing and everything had gone well. But it sort of was a real moment where I realised that the work you do when you work, you know, with the Mental Capacity Act and you know, health and welfare cases and property and affairs cases, they really do make a difference to people's lives. Not all about, you know, numbers as it is in some areas of law. It's not all about the money. It really is about making a real difference to people who don't have the capacity to make that difference for themselves. So I think that was quite early on as well, when I just started on my feet. And I think it's when I realized, you know, this is I'm definitely in the right area of law for me.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's so cool. I mean, just being able to see like the outcome as well, you know, after the case, because quite often we don't, you know, the case concludes and off it goes. That's just that's really awesome. That's a really awesome experience. So of course I'm going to put some slides up just to explain, like, through the talk, you know, what Section 21A is and things like that, so people kind of have an understanding of what we were talking about there. But I'm going to move on, and this question I think is going to become a question that I ask everyone who appears on Pause for Thought, because I absolutely can't wait to hear your answer. So if you had to choose one of the 5 principles of the Mental Capacity Act as being your favourite principle, which principle would you choose?
I think I would probably go for number 4, so best interests. And I think the reason for that is, I mean, it sort of goes back to what I said in, you know, my last answer, my most memorable moments. I don't think there's many areas of law when everyone is largely working for one outcome, that outcome being the best interests of a person, of P. And I know, you know, that's quite a rose-tinted look at it. Obviously, there's contentious issues, and you know, we have the cases can be highly emotive and sometimes quite distressing. But overall, what I think Principle 4 is all about is the fact that the court is working not for a winner or a loser, not to prove someone right or wrong, but it's all about really what can we do for this individual to make their life as good as it can be, or to make sure that the decisions are being made for them as they would want them to be in the best way possible. And it's a really collaborative sort of aspect of mental capacity work that I think is really encompassed in that principle, that I, you know, really appreciate and enjoy as part of the job I do. So probably, yeah, number 4, best interests.
No, that's interesting. That's interesting. And do you have any wise words or words of wisdom for anyone considering a career in the legal profession, legal profession, or maybe considering working within the mental capacity arena?
Yeah, I mean, anyone considering the legal profession, it's hard work, but it's definitely worth it. It's you know, it's a highly competitive industry. You know, I remember lots of people when I was doing my law conversion course, lots of people were saying to me, or even before doing that, you know, when I did my history degree, what do you want to do law? You know, there's quite a good luck sort of thing. You know, that's fantastic, and you know, it can be hard, and it is tough. The GDL year especially is quite intense. You know, trying to fit in a whole 3 years of a law degree into one essentially. And then going on to do the bar professional training course, because obviously I took the barrister route rather than doing the LPC as solicitors would. So yeah, and it is a tough few years, both, you know, mentally, and also it's not cheap. It's a very costly career to get into. So, you know, if you are considering it, do consider it. You know, really give it some thought. You know, is this what I want to do? Because I think you do have to sacrifice quite a lot if you want to go far, you know, in law. But you know, it does pay off at the end of it. If you put that work in, you know, you can have the career that you want to have at the end of it. I think in terms of mental capacity work, you know, if that's something you want to get into, it's about getting experience in the area, or at least showing an interest in the area. So I obviously didn't know I wanted to be a court of protection barrister or specialise in this area until quite late on, as I said earlier. So it's not like, you know, you have to know that's what you want to do from the start. But once you learn about it, once you hear about it, you know, keep your ear to the ground, you know, tune into seminars, you know, or talks like this, you know, get a bit of a feel for what your area of law, whether it's mental capacity or not, what it's like. I think the other thing to say is, when it comes to your practice area, it can, certainly from a barrister's perspective, I don't know whether it's the same if you're working as a solicitor, but pupillages are quite difficult to get, and it's not always the case that you can choose the area you want to go into. You know, pupillage you're offered can often dictate where you end up. But in saying that, if you do have an area that you're really passionate for, make sure that whoever you're applying to or wherever you're going is aware of that, because ultimately, if you have a passion for a particular area, chances are you're going to excel in it because you're interested in it, you want to do well in it. So just, you know, if you are fortunate enough to land yourself in a firm or a chambers, you know, and are offered the opportunity for training, or, you know, or offered pupillage or tenancy or your training contracts or whatever it is, make them aware that you are interested in a particular area. And, you know, from my point of view, I would strongly suggest at least getting some experience of court of protection work, because it really is so interesting and completely different from anything certainly I studied on the GDL or the bar course. It's very different, and, you know, for me anyway, it, you know, was the best career choice I could have made to go into this particular practice area.
Yeah, I mean, that's so true. And just to pick up on that point, because of course you're talking about the barrister route, so post law degree or GDL as you completed, you went down the bar route, and obviously I went down the LPC legal practice solicitor route. And I would say it's similar for for solicitors too. So when you are applying for training contracts, if you're looking for an area of law that you have a particular interest in, then you really should be looking for the type of law firm that allows that kind of opportunity. So I suppose in some ways I applied for a local government training contract because I knew I would have the opportunity to do different areas of work such as welfare, and not just, you know, the commercial kind of side of things, which often is a focus when you're studying. So yeah, no, it's interesting to hear your view from the barrister's kind of side of things. It's a similar kind of journey and process in that sense. So yeah, I mean, I just really thank you for being on today, Sophie, and sharing all of your wisdom and your thoughts about this area. I really appreciate it. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people out there who will really benefit from what you've said, and hopefully will consider a career in mental capacity work as a junior lawyer. So thank you very, very much for your time.
Oh, thank you very much for having me.
Thanks.